I grew up in the 70s when when I was in elementary school, because I had excelled in school, and because I skipped a grade and was double promoted, I was one of the first kids bused to the suburbs. So I didn't end up in Southie where all the news took place. I was actually bused from Mission Hill, Boston to Brighton, Mass, which was another very white community. My school bus was stoned. We had state police and police escort back and forth to school for the entire year.
Wow.
I would go into school with kids, and kids would be my friends, and then I would come outside to get put on my bus. We would have a police escort right to the bus. They were throwing rocks at us. I would have kids that I was friends with. We would come out of school. Their parents would grab their kids and call me nigger, and I would get on this bus, and I'd go home, and my dad was not allowed to follow me to school. So people would say to me, how come you didn't grow up prejudiced? And I'm like, because I owe a lot of this to my dad. I would go home every day and tell my dad that this would happen, or people threw rocks at the bus. People would call me nigger. This. What do I do? I was like only in the 5th grade at this time. And my dad raised us, and he used to tell us, nigger's just a word. You make of it what you make of it, but at the end of the day, it's just a word. Did you hurt physically from that word? Nope. It's just a word. You go and get your education. Don't let nobody take that from you. Right. You go to school every day, and you let that word just roll off. As long as the police are there to protect you, you get that education. And I did. And I put that towards life. And, I owe a lot to my life. Like the music selection that I showed you. I grew up in Mission Hill in the projects, in Boston. Deep Roxbury. But my dad, his musical selection, he listened to Kiss. He listened to Eric Burdon's War. My dad's music was just so out there. And my mom was the same way. My mom grew up in a choir in church, so she loved all types of music. I remember sitting in the projects, and my mom was listening to country music. My mom was a big Wynette fan. My mom loved Loretta Lynn. I remember my mom making us sit at home and watch Coal Miner's Daughter with Sissy Spacek because it was one of my mother's favorite movies. But this was a black home, so it was good to be exposed to all that stuff. I remember growing up, and one of the biggest things I used to watch was Grand Ole Opry. I used to love it. Yeah. But
you didn't see color. That was the thing. You weren't looking at this is this and that. I mean, that's kind of how I learned a little bit. Was like I seen a lot of racism around me, and I seen some really shitty things happen, and I was like, I'm not about that stuff. And I don't know about you, but I still have friends that I go around, and I still hear them use those words. Mm-hmm. And I cringe. Like, I can't wait to get out of that situation. I'm sure you still probably have some black friends who will say stuff about the other side. You know what I mean? Maybe not, but it's part of life. It happens.
Yeah, I when being where I was at the MBTA for years, I dealt with some guys who had some issues with race problems, and and I used to tell them, hey, don't let nobody take your job away. Don't get yourself into trouble because of race. Yeah. Go get your job and get your pension and do what you need to get done. But yeah, I've had some people. I've had people who were friends who were white, and they've had said some things, but you're cool, Keith. I know you, and I'm like, but it's still not cool. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I've grown to just put myself in a certain place where I don't breed ignorance. So I've had a lot of people come to me. And I'll tell you this, I don't want to break up telling the story, but I dated a girl years ago, many years ago, high school sweetheart. I dated this girl. She was Portuguese. And she was like my high school sweetheart. Like I didn't go to my senior prom, I didn't go to my junior prom, but I met this girl, and she took me to her junior and senior prom, and we were dating. Her dad was straight racist. Owned his own business, straight. He was a racist. He hated black people. I used to come to the house, and I used to make this awesome chili. Now, her dad was a fan of chili. So I used to make chili in the crock pot, and I brought it over for him. He tried it. Never said a word to me. I knew he hated black people. Never said nothing. I always respected him. I went to their house. Always respected him and the wife. The wife loved me. Wife loved me. Always had me over for dinner. They own their own business in Hanover. And one weekend, they had to do all the landscaping for the place. And all of his friends and his buddies that were supposed to help him, they actually backed out. So it was him and his son that had to do all this landscaping. So I told my girlfriend at the time, I says, I'll go help. She goes, really? She goes, but he talks all this shit about you, this and that, about being black. I'm like, I don't care. She says, he needs help. I'm going to help him. So her mom says, you sure? And I says, yep, take me there. So they took me there. We went, and I did all the landscaping. I didn't say a word to him. He didn't say a word to me. We laid mulch. We dug holes. Never said a word to him. 3 weeks later, they had he used to go canoeing all the time on what they call is the North River.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a call from my girlfriend, and she says, hey. I said, what? She goes, my dad wants you to go canoeing with him. I said, yeah, sure, no problem. She goes, yeah, just you and him, though. He's going to take you fishing. All right, no problem. So I get to the house. He doesn't say anything to me. I help him with the canoe. We put the canoe in the car and stuff. We head out to the North River. We put the canoe in the water. Nothing was said the whole ride. He listened to his country music. We get out in the canoe, and I'm like, man, this dude's going to kill me or something.
That's what I'm thinking.
You know? And we get out in the river. We start fishing. Catch a couple of fish. Nothing's really said. And he finally speaks and says, hey, Keith. I'm like, yep. He goes, I got to talk to you. And I says, okay. Because, you know, I've said some pretty bad things behind your back and some things about you because you're black and this and that. He goes, and you've proved me wrong. He said, I wanted to bring you out here today to apologize to you because of the things I said. And it meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
That he said that. And we spent the day fishing, and, you know, we built this relationship to the point where I went to his house and stuff and had dinner, and he would now speak to me at dinner and stuff. And 6 months later, he fell asleep behind the wheel of his car just 2 minutes from the house and hit a tree and died.
Wow.
And it meant a lot to me that he came out to me before that, because I sit here and I always still say to myself that he didn't have to tell me that.
Right.
And I know for him to suck his pride up, because he had friends who were racist.
Maybe that's why no one showed to help him up that day, because his daughter was dating a black guy. Who knows?
It probably was. And sometimes it takes people to see ignorance to learn their own ignorance. And I feel like that's probably what happened, maybe.
Yeah.
But the fact is that I know for him to take me out somewhere and then to open up to me and tell me that and then accept me, I know it meant a lot to me till this day.
Yeah. Wow.
There's not a day that goes by, a year that goes by where I don't drive by that area where he crashed and died, that I say to myself, man, you know, this dude really made an impact in my life. Because I could have easily have said, you know, I'm gonna let this white guy do all the work himself and laugh about it.
Yeah, you could have lashed out on him. You could have done all kinds of things. You could have been negative towards white people from that point on.
Mm-hmm.
You really could have.
I never did that. And like I said, that's one of those things again where it just means those words mean a lot to me when it's something like that. You know, I don't ask for anything, you know, but when somebody comes out and does something to that extreme, I know it was hard for him to come out and say to me. I know it's hard for him to tell his daughter, hey, call him up and let me take him fishing for the day. I know that there was just as hard. So for him to come out and apologize, I'm a kid. I was a young kid back then. He's a grown-up. He didn't have to apologize.
Yeah, no,
this day.
You didn't have to. But like you said, sooner or later, once unfortunately you proved yourself, he was humiliated by his actions. He realized he was wrong. You know what I mean? And and that's another question too. So let me ask you this, because I have this ongoing question, and I'm not to change the subject, but I have this ongoing question. I'll hang around. I have a lot of black friends, right?
Yep.
A lot of black friends, and I hear them use the N-word 24/7, okay? 24/7. Now, if I was to say that word with the A at the end, I'm getting crucified. Now, in your case, in your clique, okay, you got a lot of white friends.
Mm-hmm.
If any one of your white friends uses that word in a correct context, you know what I mean? Like say they're singing the lyric of a song and that word's in it and they sing it. You flipping or they get the free pass?
Oh, damn, that's a good question. That's a good question. I know some guys who rap, some white guys who rap, and a majority of them don't really drop that. The real guys don't drop that word at all, because a lot of the guys that have some credibility to their music and stuff like that, they think that's a sucker's way out for finding a good word to rhyme to begin with. So
right.
At the end of the day, a lot of the guys that I know, they don't really use that word. I have more black friends that use the word, and I get mad at them for using that word, than I have white friends who don't use it, to be honest.
Right.
I have one friend who probably used it back in the day to try to fit in. And did it bother me? Yeah. Did I check him on it? Nope, because 20 other people checked him on it. My feeling was he knows what he's doing. He knows his actions. But I'm one of these guys that, I don't have many people that say it around me.
Right.
Probably because I'm a lot of times I think it's because I'm just a pretty big guy. So a lot of people are better off saying, I better not say that in front of this guy. He might haul up and hit me. But, a lot of people know that they call me the big teddy bear until I get pissed off like I was New Year's Eve day back at McDonald's. But
well, I explained this. I had these two black females out my back porch one night with her boyfriend, and he's a white dude, and I was telling this story that the person, was telling the story about what was happening at the studio one time, and how the owner said, "I don't want you guys in that studio using that N-word anymore," and he used the N-word. And I said it just how he'd said it. They got so offended by me saying that and using it in that context that they got up and left.
Really?
And I was like, damn, man, like, I didn't mean it like that. Like, I'm not a racist dude. Like, even now, if I say it like Donald Trump, I'm racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
And I'm not even saying I like Donald Trump, but I'm just using it as an example. So it's like, I guess everyone has their ways. You know what I mean?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because, like I said, I remember when Jay-Z was on Oprah or something, and they were talking about using that word to take the power away from the word. I mean, my feeling is everybody can come up with whatever. Like I said, I grew up at a time when it was bad, and like I said, I was bused to school.
Yeah. So
I really saw hate. First example, like I said, I remember the windshield and the sides of the windows of the bus getting broken by rocks as we drove through Brighton, and people were calling us nigger and go back home monkeys and holding signs and a police escort every morning to school while I was in the 5th grade. Like I said, everybody would say, how is this guy not a friggin' racist going through that? And like I said, I owe it to my dad, but at the same time, it's ignorance, it's ugly. And maybe because I endured that, maybe there's a higher power that makes sure that I don't have these type of people around me in my life now.
Sure.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's because I have a lot of white friends around me when I'm out and about. I'm, like I said, I really never had to experience it.
I think you judge people, Keith, and how they act and how they represent themselves. Mm-hmm. And that's how you've lived your life since a young kid, I believe. It's just, you call it how it is. Mm-hmm. And you don't look at color or this, that. You judge each person as an individual.